Welcome to the Atlas Island Podcast. I am your host, John Carter, and today we have
Bryson Funk.
Bryson Funk.
Yeah.
And Bryson, we were talking a little bit about this before, but you are a native Dallas Texan. Is that correct?
That's correct. Born and raised.
Nice. What neighborhood exactly?
So I grew up in like North Dallas, so like Carrollton, Plano area.
Okay, cool.
That is what I call home. And then got married, moved to East Dallas.
Okay.
And then I currently reside in Arlington, also known as the best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody calls it that.
A-Town.
Yeah,
Good old
A-Town, baby.
A-Town.
Let's go.
By the way, if you're from Arlington like me, nobody calls it A-Town. Everybody outside of Arlington calls it A-Town for some freaking reason. I have no idea why. Literally didn't find that out until I was at a show in Fort Worth at Magnolia Motor Lounge, and somebody was just like, "Oh, you're from A-Town." I'm like, "What the heck is A-Town?" Like,
Yeah. I feel like if you're from Arlington, you either claim Fort Worth or Dallas. You don't tell people you're from Arlington.
Oh no, that is absolutely 100% true. I fell into the Fort Worth crowd because it's easier. Parking is free in Sundance Square on the weekends and weeknights. I don't know if it's on weeknights anymore, but parking is way easier there. There's less of a buy-in.
Yeah.
And
listen, so I used to always say I was a Dallas guy.
Okay.
Love Dallas, love the hustle and bustle, love the flashiness of it growing up. But then got a little bit older, got a little bit wiser, realized everything's about money, and it's about how much money you have there. And Fort Worth just feels more real in a lot of ways.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Actually, nobody cares.
Yeah. And so now that I'm in Arlington, it's like I really actually love Fort Worth now.
Yeah, no, because my favorite spots were growing up there. That you obviously have Bass Hall, and I loved going to concerts there with the Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra and even singing some musicals there. But no, I loved Keys Lounge, which is one of the oldest blues bars in Texas. I don't know if it's ancient, but it's been around. It's had one of the longest lasting blues jams. A lot of people cut their teeth there. Scat Lounge, the Black Dog Jam on Sunday nights is, I know I'm boosting Fort Worth here, and I'm Fort Worth, if you want to pay us, please.
We'll take it. Let's go.
We'll absolutely take it. We will move our studios somewhere over there. Somewhere. The Black Dog Jam on Sundays in Fort Worth at the Scat Lounge, which a few people don't know, it's literally like you go to Sundance Square, and in one of the alleys you will see a literally neon sign, blue and yellow, that says Scat Lounge, and you take an elevator all the way down, and it's an old school jazz club. And I went in there, and on Sunday nights, there's no dress code. Drinks are stupid cheap, and you get to see the best musicians in the entire area just go up there and have a good time. And that's the best part about it. It's super open, super friendly. Love doing it. If you ask, no, Joey Carter, who runs the jam, and I are not related. I know we're both musicians. We're both white dudes with glasses. We're not related. I'm getting that out there now because people in this area, when I show up, ask if we're related. We're not related. I love Joey, though. Absolutely love Joey.
Noted.
So
Noted.
back to you. Fort Worth's fun. So where does music, entertainment, arts come for you? Because I know you're a consultant now, and you've worked in management in the past, and you're doing that now. But I know you've released your own record. Our friend Tony McClure also, I believe, represented you at one time.
Yeah, he worked with my management team.
Okay.
He was doing a lot of he was really the tour manager for a lot of things. But yeah, man, I mean, it was a thing as long as I can remember, honestly. I mean, and I don't want to say the whole from a baby I was singing, but 8 years old, I picked up a guitar. My parents bought me a First Act guitar, from Walmart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. It's the classic go-to. Yeah. So First Act guitar took me to my first music lessons, and thank God my guitar teacher was like, listen, if you want him to learn, you got to get him something better than a First Act. And so they got me a Baby Taylor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know, man. So, grew up playing a Baby Taylor. Started at 8. Man, I took lessons for a decade, and started songwriting. Once I got into like high school, like middle to late high school, I was like thoroughly into the art scene. So, songwriting, acting, any play I could be in. Because I didn't have an agent yet. I didn't know how to do TV and film or anything like that. So I was just doing community plays, just writing my own songs, just kind of for fun. And then as I got a little bit older, my parents were like, okay, this is a thing that he wants to do. They were super supportive. And they're like, well, let's do what we can to like help push him to this like next level. They didn't know any better either. Like my dad owned a landscape company. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Like they didn't know anything about the entertainment industry,
Yeah, no, it's and I'm sure people who are listening and I mean everybody who works in this space understands, like, unless you know somebody who's already in it, I mean the internet helps nowadays, but like when because I'm almost 30. How old are you?
32.
32.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're around the same age. So when we came up, it was literally the internet was just starting. Yeah. We were like slightly ahead of what the internet was developing. So it was always weird because there was like LiveJournal and then there was like MySpace, and you heard about people blowing up on MySpace, and you're like, how do you blow up on MySpace?
Yeah.
And like you just get like 1 million friends. I'm like, how do you do that? Like that was such a obscure concept. I know this sounds really dated, but this was real.
No,
like
yeah.
you still had this traditional entertainment business model. There were no YouTube videos or like educational channels. Mm-hmm. There might have been blogs, and I just wasn't aware of them. But man, the resources were basically there, but like you never knew about them.
Yeah,
it was very, very odd. And so like I'm glad you shared that, because I kind of ran into the same thing where like I'm working with a lot of, I teach lessons and I work with a lot of younger kids who are already way better at social media and how to network and everything and do all that stuff better than me. And I'm like, wow, you're only like 4 or 5 years younger than me. And like, and like, there's like, I worked with one girl who's like 16 and she's already got like 50,000 like followers on TikTok. And I'm just like, what? Like, it just blows my mind. I'm like, just how fast you can just climb and go. And my friend Victoria, I'm eventually going to have her on. I'm going to guilt trip her on. She's got a lot of followers on TikTok, so I gotta guilt trip her on here. And then she's just going to shame me publicly about how I spoke bad about TikTok for so many years, and that how she was right about it, and she was.
Yeah.
But so your parents try to get you into this. What was the avenue going into the entertainment business? Like, you said community theaters, like, did you guys just find an ad in a paper or like on Monster or like anywhere?
No. So fun fact, I homeschooled all the way through.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Homeschool. I like to
PBS raised you.
That's right. That's right. And libraries, we actually used to go to the library.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. A lot of books. No, so grew up in a conservative Christian household, which was so interesting because like, the entertainment is this like dark, scary place, where like people lose their souls. And so my parents really wanted to find like an inlet where they trusted that I would be safe, right? Like, both physically and emotionally safe,
By the way, they're right. I mean, how many kid actors and kid talent are we hearing about now? I mean, I don't even need to name a few.
Yeah.
But like, obviously Britney Spears is one of the ones that like most people point towards. Miley Cyrus being another one. Mm-hmm. But even like Shia LaBeouf now, like, I mean, that dude's crazy history. But
and
so they were right in that they were right in heeding that warning. But at the same time, you still want to foster that talent. You want your kid to live their dreams out. So there's always that battle between the two. Yeah.
So they had like a mutual friend that heard about this talent development company called AMTC. And it was like a national kind of like talent search situation. You pay a lot of money, you get an opportunity to go up in front of like legitimate managers and agents in the industry who have been like vetted, previously vetted by the company.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my way in. I went through that program, ended up getting some management and a local agent as well in DFW. And that was kind of like my first like dipping my toes into the actual entertainment industry. You think growing up in high school, you're like hot stuff, in the talent shows and in the plays, but then like this is the real industry. And everything is completely different. Everything is for keeps. Everything is intense. I mean, it's a business. When you realize that you, like as a 17 or 18-year-old walking into this and realizing like, oh, this isn't for fun.
Yeah.
This isn't just a hobby. Yeah. Like, this is a business. And if I can't produce for this business, then there's no value. I have no value.
Yeah, no, and then the obvious part where it's like you struggle with like the creative mind versus the business mind, and you realize you literally can't have one without the other, even though, unfortunately, I would argue, in my experience, the business always wins.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with people who, I'm not knocking them, I'm actually praising them, all right, who know only 3 or 4 chords on a guitar and can move a capo and have a good network, and they're making $1,000 a night.
Yeah.
And they sing okay, and they can barely play guitar, and they're making $1,000 a night. And I went to music school for God knows how many years, and got, the whole experience and learned my instrument and my craft and really tightened it down. As soon as I got out, I didn't even know how to like book a gig properly.
That's real.
Yeah, it was literally like out of music school, back to square one, and I was just like, whew, like, and I've even like Dalton, who's producing right here, has been in our meetings here, and it's like, it's very obvious that I don't know the technical side of things, and I'm still very new to the business side of things, and I'm just kind of pushing forward. So, but it's one of those things that's like a hard pill to swallow. You want to be creative and you want to make the best art possible, but at the same time, you got to pay bills.
Yeah.
So are you gonna get a day job and then just do this as a hobby, as your passion as a hobby, or are you gonna make your passion a business? You can't have both.
That's so true, man. And that's honestly like that's where I'm at right now. So like, kind of fast forward a little bit. I released some music. I was, blessed to be able to write a song for a feature film. I got to tour with that. That was really cool.
Awesome. What was the film?
The film was called 8 Days.
8 Days? Okay.
Yeah, and the song's called Fade Out, and I wrote it with Olivia...
Newton-John?
Yeah, Olivia Newton-John. Yeah.
Just joking. Unless it was, then that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Oh, Olivia Bruce. Sorry, she got married. So Olivia Bruce. But that was a really cool experience. The director of that film was from South Africa, and so we actually did like an America tour of the film. Went to I can't remember. I think like 7 or 8 different cities. Premiered it, and then they brought some musicians along the tour as well, and we would perform every night. And then we also took it to South Africa because that's his home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super fun, man. We went to Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, got a nice little like international 2-week tour with that. It was fun, man.
Oh no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, it was super awesome. I'm gonna be super blessed, man. But from there, I struggled with the business side.
Yeah,
I really did, and I had a manager. She was very new to the business. Really didn't know a whole lot more than I did at that point. And so we just kind of, man, I don't know. We really struggled to get any kind of traction going.
Yeah.
And so eventually, I got married, and it got to a point where I'm like, hey, I cannot provide for us doing what I'm doing. And so from that point, I kind of made a transition to Instead of producing my own music and trying to pursue a touring career, going into talent development, management, and now consulting for artists.
Awesome. And we kind of briefly talked about management before the podcast, and you and your wife both manage, correct?
Not currently, just
Okay.
my wife, but we have
Okay.
both in the past.
All right, cool. And so, what is for people who don't know, what is the difference between management and consultation?
So a manager, first of all, needs something to manage, right? Like
Okay.
you hear that pretty consistently. The thing with management is that it is almost this like status symbol in a way, right? Where it's
Okay.
like, as a local artist, you are developing your craft and developing your career. And then kind of the next like big step is to get a manager. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you want to book me, you got to go through my manager, And it's kind of this like a little part protection, part status symbol. Like I'm making it. I have someone who like is managing me now,
Okay.
And so I think that oftentimes people pursue management before they need it. And they have nothing to manage. To be a manager, you have to have multiple shows, multiple bookings, PR, marketing. There's like so many different areas that a manager has their hands in. It's kind of pushing and kind of guiding. And if you don't have any of that as an artist, you don't need a manager. And so
Okay.
I think the biggest difference is that a consultant is somebody that can come in and give you unbiased support in any aspect of your career, right?
Okay.
Because the way this works is it's literally like an hourly structure, okay? So I'm not committed to you or your brand in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. I'm completely neutral to what you're doing and what's going on. It's my job as a consultant to take the information that you give me, whether it's for image or whether it's for financial strategy or even like live performance. Maybe your band is struggling with your live performance. You can come to me and say, hey, this is where I'm struggling. This is where I need help. And I can say, all right, let's book an hour or two and like, let's work through this. And
Okay.
I will give my best advice. And that it is completely unbiased because I'm not connected to your brand.
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen this a lot, and this is going to be a little bit of like shots fired, but like there are local managers who take on artists who don't need management and then push those artists in directions that are not necessarily good for the artist, but are good for the manager.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually have a story about this, not for myself, but for a friend who went through this. And the reason I'm pausing is because I'm trying to think about how to go about this. Okay. easiest way I can describe this. Friend of mine is doing well. Suddenly puts out a video. Not going to say where because people listening who know me will know who it is once I mention it. It blows up, gets 100,000 views.
Wow.
Over a week, like out of nowhere.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was weird. Like, and they even admitted it was weird. And so all of a sudden, people just come out of the woodwork because they're like, oh, and this was like when virality still had like, okay, let's see if we got to grab the viral thing right now. It was the trend at the time to grab whatever was happening viral and then just push that artist as much as possible. So they had people coming out everywhere for it. And they get with this guy who books them and there's a lot of people who do this. So who book colleges.
Yeah.
Exclusively colleges.
Yeah. Those college tours. Yeah.
And the issue was, it was good monetization wise. They were making good money. You can make good money performing at colleges because of this thing where colleges need to justify their budget. They need to pay a certain amount of money to performances to justify keeping that amount the next year. So if you want to take advantage of that, would highly recommend to anybody who's listening. the issue, it wasn't the best for the artist as a whole, because even though they were doing really great work and they were doing really getting really good money, what would happen is all of their consistent connections back here in town were just moving on. And that's the thing about touring that nobody talks about. And it's similar to when you go away out of state for college. Everybody's lives move on.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to wait for you. That's the reality of the situation. They're not going to, they're going to have life events happen, all this other stuff. So if you have weekly gigs set up around this area and then you go on tour, those dates get filled with other artists, and those artists might take those slots you worked years to get. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And then all of a sudden, everybody in that project had to get day jobs. And they had to take day jobs that didn't have insurance or anything like that, because they were like, well, we're doing colleges now, we're making good money, we gotta keep this thing going, keep this thing going. And then COVID happened. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of people's
Just
stories.
bad timing, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to be as general about that as possible, but like that's one of those situations where, you know, and by the way, the manager, as soon as COVID happened, dropped him and then never called them ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's tough.
Yeah, I have a million stories like that, but this is more related to that one. I'm sure you have other stories like that as well.
Yeah.
And to kind of keep it on a more positive note, what are some consultation ideas for artists? And you don't have to name names, that was generally taken well, because when you go to a consultant, people might not expect the brutal, honest truth. And so sometimes that works in their favor because they're open to it. Obviously, they're paying you to do that because, let's be honest, our friends and family are yes men, unless you're my mom. My mom's brutal
Shout out
with
to
me.
Mom. Yeah,
I love you, Mom. But she's brutal with me all the time, and hurts really bad in the beginning, but over time it was she was right.
Yeah.
But what's some consultation examples that you've had in the past that have worked out, or maybe have that you knew you were right in a situation, and then people came back later, even though they got kind of upset about it?
Man, the thing with a lot of artists is that as creatives, typically we are led with emotion over data, right? So something that's been really cool for me is that for the past 4 years, I've been working as a digital marketing manager for a tech startup. Okay. And so something that's been really cool is that I have taken 2 decades of entertainment work, and then now I also have almost 5 years in the tech startup world, and so it's really cool to see the connection between the creative and like the data side of things, right? And so oftentimes, an artist will come in and let's just say like merch. Let's take merch, right? They're like, hey, I've got $500. I don't know what to do with this. I really want to make T-shirts, or I really want to do CDs, right? They'll come in with a pre-existing idea, right?
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we can look at the money that they have, but then there's so many other factors that are also coming into play here. So like, what are you planning on doing for the next 6 months of your career? Do you have any shows coming up? Do you have any tours coming up? Do you have any other projects coming out? If you create this physical thing that you're going to sell, what is your return on that investment, right? What is your ROI? So oftentimes people come in, I see this like more often than not, where they will have a specific idea of what they want. And it's exciting, it's flashy, it's cool, but they haven't done the research to know that, hey, actually, if you take that same amount of money and put it here instead, you'll get 3 times your investment, and then you can do this later. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of it is strategy, and I think that is the thing that I've seen the most is that as people come in and as people, bring these different issues or different roadblocks, if you will, the best part about coming to a consultant is the like bird's eye view, right? So I can look higher with zero bias and say like, okay, you want to do this, but you've got these three things over here that are playing in. And if we go this route instead, it will be a lot better for you in the long run.
So it's not necessarily laying the groundwork. It's literally making your own road in a weird way.
You know, I was thinking about this the other day, man, and like there are so many roads to success in the entertainment industry.
Especially now,
right? But even, and this was one of the things I didn't know when I was in high school and pursuing music. To me, the only way I could be successful was if I was a touring musician. That was success to me.
Yeah, same.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. When in reality, there's so many different ways. Right? You can have a publishing deal. You can have you can be writing music and get a sync deal. You know, you can strictly songwrite. You can produce. You can engineer. You know, there are so many different ways.
Oh yeah. I think the craziest part was finding out about sync deals, which was like I didn't know what a sync was until I'm not joking. I literally watched the Black Keys interview they did with Joe Rogan, and they talked about how they were literally signed to Columbia Records, I believe, for like 10 years. And Columbia Records is a big, legendary record label.
Yeah.
And they had no support from that label. And then all of a sudden they went in, they were like, hey, we literally have like the most syncs for commercials, movies than any of your artists here at Columbia. And then they didn't even realize that they had this artist that was making them all this money through commercials and television and movies. And then all of a sudden they pushed them, and that's when Brothers came out, and then that's when people really knew who the Black Keys were. And it was just it kind of just blew my mind. I was just like, wow, you can be signed to a major. That just shows how like, you know, behind the times even major record labels were.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's that weird thing, man, where technology is just, it's really opened a lot of avenues, and just people are just now trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, Old Town Road, that song just didn't exist, and now it exists everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a guy now. So he's from Dallas. His name's Johnny Stimson, and incredible songwriter. To me, he kind of sounds like Justin Timberlake, kind of in that pop. Kind of like pop R&B, but pretty pop.
Okay.
And he has an incredible following in Asia, like a massive following in Asia.
Okay.
And he will put out songs that are played on radio over there, and he goes on tours and sells out tours, like large spaces. And like most people here have never heard his name.
That is literally the first time I've heard of him.
Yeah.
And I'm from here. So
and he is absolutely incredible. And so like that is his route that he's taken.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, it's not America, like, I wish people knew me in America, he has leaned into that.
Oh yeah.
And he is crushing it.
Oh no, Kings of Leon, they're from Oklahoma. They put out 4 albums in the UK and were huge and still are huge in the UK. And they got big in Canada. They didn't break until Sex on Fire came out.
Yeah.
In the US. That was their 5th album. And they were touring Europe extensively and living good lives, just touring the UK and Europe and Canada, and then doing small shows in the US.
Yeah.
It is just weird. And this is pre-internet. They got signed in 99. That's just like, and they didn't break America until 2000. When did that come out? 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's over 10 years later. So that's where I know that example from. But when I hear that and somebody's like actually making it over in another country, God bless them. That's awesome. I wish them all the success, and I'm glad that they're finding success somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Well, that is an interesting thing, because I've heard a lot that, you know, American artists are more respected in other countries, right? Or like they gain more attention in other countries.
In the jazz realm, absolutely. Absolutely, because I came from that school when I was going to music school. I worked with a lot of jazz artists. Japan, Korea, other parts of Asia, I believe Singapore, and Switzerland, Sweden. They love American jazz musicians, and they play 3 places in America, but they play like 100 different venues over in all these other countries. And by the way, these guys are wearing like $10,000 suits when I was taking lessons from them, so they're making good money too.
No,
So,
totally.
Yeah,
Totally. And I think that's one of the first things if you go to a consultant is like that consultant needs to understand like what is success to you. Yeah. You got to answer that question first. And honestly, any artist needs to answer that question for themselves, right?
totally.
What is success to me? I've got like several different people that I can talk about here. So like I've got a buddy, his name is Brandon Chase. He lives in Nashville now. He produces, he writes. When we knew each other in high school, he was pursuing his own entertainment, his own music career. Had some success locally, regionally, did fairly well. He's like a songwriting machine. He is one of the best songwriters I know. Can just pop out stuff like it's nothing. And really, it was kind of that same mentality that like touring musicianship is the goal. He's my age, and so. His own touring career never really took off. Then he was able to become the frontman for a band called I Am They. Okay. Toured with them for several years. They were already established in the contemporary Christian world. Toured with them for several years. I think as a band they split up. I think either last year or this year was their last year together as a band. And now he's writing and producing, and he's got publishing deals and all that. And like, he's got a house in Nashville, Tennessee, and he's crushing the game, And like, that is his success.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's doing it. Yeah. And then another thing I think of, do you know the band Emery?
Oh, of course.
Of course. It's so funny you say of course, but like Emery.
Yeah.
Emery is known within circles, right? Like.
I always forget that because, like, again, if you didn't grow up in like
it's like the warp tour, crew,
it's just you had to be there, okay? If you like, that's basically what we're saying. You had to be there to know who Emery is.
Yeah, but like, I love looking at Emery as an example of taking their own path because they are in their late 40s, pushing 50. Still touring, still selling out 500 to 1,000 person venues.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right? Still putting on a killer show.
Oh, they have a huge cult following.
Yeah, and it's a cult following. And that's the thing is like they're not top 40.
No.
They're not, the average person doesn't even know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But every time they go on tour, they sell out their shows.
Yeah, the band Thursday is a lot like that, too. And My Chemical Romance used to open up for them. Like, they're one of those bands. There's a great Netflix documentary out. Go check it out. The Sparks Brothers. Go check that out. This is one of those examples. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. The guy who did Hot Fuzz and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that director, is it Edgar Wright? You don't know, if you like Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, those movies, he did this documentary on the Sparks Brothers. So go watch that documentary. It's very fascinating. Not big in America at all. Huge cult following, and they're in their 70s.
Wow.
Queen opened for them. Queen.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. So this is one of those situations.
Yeah, totally.
But, so kind of wrapping up here. I guess when wrapping it down from listening here is, and maybe you can tell this to our audience and fill this in. What does success look like to you? Like actual success. Do you want to be the biggest artist in the world, or do you want to be able to pay your mortgage and feed your kids and, your wife stay at home, or vice versa? That sort of thing. Where, do you just want to have like a cool, like, million internet following, or do you want to be like a professional touring musician? I know people who use Instagram for some reason it's always Instagram with instrumentalists. Don't really know why. That I know people who through Instagram have gotten national touring gigs because they look cool and obviously they can play because people follow them because they can play and then they look cool. So when they're on stage, that checks 2 things off. Then the third thing is like, can I just stand living with this person for 6 months out of the year? Because that's what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, it's crazy like that. So yeah, what does success look like for you?
Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to add for the audience? Maybe some questions they should ask themselves if they're wanting to pursue a career in the entertainment industry or are currently in the entertainment industry and feel like they're stuck in a rut.
Man, yeah, you're totally right. So I think the biggest thing is to understand if you can answer that question, what is success, then you can feed every decision through that matrix, right?
Okay.
So if, like you're saying, if success is to have a house and be able to provide for my, family, be comfortable, whether that's through gigging, whether that's through touring, whether that's through sync licensing, then that is the direction that you go. If it's to be a producer engineer, then you put everything through that filter and that is the direction that you go. So yes, answer that question first, right? And then you've got to understand that it is a business. Yeah. It is a business, right? So like if you are pursuing this as a career, the moment you decide that this is a career, that is also the moment that you are starting your own business. Okay, this is no longer a hobby. There are bills, there are profit margins, there is marketing, there are all the things that go into building a business. And I think that oftentimes that is where, once you realize that and you get into that, that is where you can kind of start to get stuck, right? Because I'm not a business person, right? I'm a songwriter, right? And I think that is a thing is like, until you have something to manage, until you have something that needs a team, you need to find 1 or 2 people that you trust, that understand business, whether that's a consultant or whether that's a parent, whether that's a friend who understands business, that can be neutral and unbiased and walk you through decisions that pertain to your music career. Yeah. I think that if you can do that, you will save years potentially in that path to success.
All right, cool. I feel like that's a good stopping point. You got any social media or websites you want to plug?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at We Are Crescendo.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Okay. And then also website wearecrescendo.com.
Awesome.
And typically on the website, I post like monthly blogs that discuss a wide variety of things. And then also on Instagram, I'm constantly posting a lot of informative kind of like data-based information for the music industry. So it's not your typical like, this is what you want to do if you're going to be successful. It's like, hey, vinyls for the first time outsold CDs in the year 2022. So
Jack White, we hate you.
Single-handedly. I know. But follow me at We Are Crescendo. And
by the way, Crescendo is spelled Crescendo.
My God, thank you.
It's not an H.
It's not crescendo.
I went to music school and I teach music lessons. They get it wrong all the time. So
yeah.
Crescendo, I'll be the guy to say that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right. Bryce, has been awesome, man.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Send it
man.
there.